So it was another October evening. We had met just earlier that day, and we had planned on meeting later that night too for a dinner. Like, because after that there was gonna be like this. He was gonna shift away, and we didn't know when we would meet again. So we planned to go out for like one last dinner, and I left from my place only around like 8. It was pretty late, and we went to this North Indian restaurant. We had ordered the food, and the food was like gonna come. We were waiting for the food, and he was on his phone and I was on my phone, I think. And then he just suddenly asked for my phone. I don't know why he asked, and I gave it to him without any questions, because that's just the kind of relationship we had. Like, I've never asked for his phone, but that was how it was. So yeah, he got my phone and he started going through my messages, and I don't know, he didn't like the fact that I had talked to my best friend who he didn't like, and I had talked about an internship to some guy, and he didn't like it that I talked to a guy at all in the first place. So he got really pissed off, and he started like swearing at me, kind of like abusing me verbally and all in the restaurant, kind of low key. That's how it began. So he's always been someone who was like very quick to use swear words, so it was not new to me, and I was like, I didn't take it any, like, I didn't take it to heart or find any red warning in that. So then after that, the food had all come, but whatever happened had angered him so much that he just decided to storm out of the restaurant. So it was quite late in the night, and I had to go back with him because I didn't have any other way to go back home. So when he left the restaurant, I went back with him, and so when we got to the car, he went to the passenger seat and sat inside, and he asked me to drive the car, and he still had my phone in his hand. And so I got into the passenger seat and I just eased the car onto the road, and he was still going through whatever he was seeing on my phone, and that was when the first hit came. It was so unexpected because I knew he was angry and he was going through my phone, but I didn't have anything to hide, or I hadn't done anything wrong. So like, he was in the passenger seat, I was in the driver's seat, and I was facing I was trying to concentrate on the road and go, and he first hit me on my head.
How did it feel?
It felt awful because nobody likes getting hit by anyone, and especially for me, if anybody even just accidentally does something on my head, it kind of irritates me quite a lot. So this guy was hitting me on my head, but at that time, he had gotten so pissed off and he started hitting me. I didn't know how to react. I couldn't like hit him back or shout back at him. That's like, it kind of put me in a shock, I would say, because it was so out of the blue and so unexpected that the blow came. So like, and I was also driving and I was just about to take a U-turn. So I couldn't do anything much, and after I took the U-turn, he just continued hitting me after that. Like, after that first blow, he just continued hitting me like on my head and then on my hands, like my left hand. So I had just taken a U-turn and he kept hitting me, so it was very difficult for me to keep the vehicle going straight. So then he asked me to like get the vehicle off the road so that he can take over, and so he did. Like, I came back to the passenger seat and he took over the driver's seat, and he still had my phone in his hand, and even after he started driving, he was still hitting me. I loved him enough to go against my own parents and stop talking to them for one whole week because of some problem that we had, and I really loved him, and like, at least what I thought was love at that time, and because of that, I had put him on a pedestal in my head. So like, whatever he did, whatever he said was always right, and I just blindly trusted him in everything. Nobody had ever slapped me before, not even my parents, and nobody, and he slapped me, and like, that made me feel really small, like, and the fact that I couldn't do anything about it, like in retrospect that made me feel bad, but at that time I was just in too much of a shock to even think about how it made me feel. How is all this happening now, and what am I going to do after this? Like, how am I going to go face my parents? And I was worried about that too, because when he had my phone in his hand, my mom had been calling him, calling me so many times, because it was pretty late in the night and she wanted me back home and I wasn't answering, and she was worried, and that was also in my head, and this guy was doing all this, and I'm just thinking, like, what am I even doing? Like, I'm hurting my parents so much, all for what? This guy here, like, he's slapping me, he's treating me like this, and I went against my parents for this guy. But all of this is in one part of my head, but this other part of my head is still begging him to stop, not going against him, not doing anything against him. I didn't even raise my hand against him. I don't know why. I just couldn't. I've never been a person who's, like, retaliated back with, like, vengeance. But even at that time, I think it was just the shock of it all happening that made me not do anything. And so I was against the door, like the passenger seat's door, and both my feet were on the seat, and like I was pretty much curled up, and I was crying, like sobbing and heaving, and I was crying pretty bad, and I had both my hands in front of me, and I was like actually begging him to stop. The hitting did not stop for like a long time, and the screaming, of course. So this went on, and we got to like a place close to my house, and then I told him, listen, I don't want to go home in this state. I don't want you to have this fight with me. And I was worried about him, about how he would get back home after dropping me, because I thought he, like, in his anger he'll do something, and also I was like, I wanted to try to resolve it. So I told him to like stop on the road, like stop on the side of the road, so that we could talk it out or something. Like, how crazy could I have been to want to actually talk it out to a guy who had just been hitting me until then. So he hit me on my hand with quite a lot of force that I just fell on the seat behind the driver's seat, and I was like pretty much rolled into a ball against that door. And he hit my hand, like my left hand, so much that it was like red and swollen, and then he actually hit me on my face with the car keys, and he hit me right on my eye. And at that time I knew the hit came, and I couldn't feel anything at that time, so I just knew he had hit me on my eye. And he himself, for a second after he hit me on my eye, he kind of realized that, and I think after that only he decided to like turn the car back around and drop me home. So after that happened, I was still in the back seat, and he started the car again, and he went home. And like as soon as we reached home, my mom came out of the house. She was angry, she was worried that I wasn't answering the call, and it was so late in the night, and she was also angry at me. She was also coming out of my home shouting at me and at him for not being responsible and all, and he's getting out of the car in all that anger. And before getting out of the car, so when we got off at my home, he threw my phone on the car floor of the car, and he actually stamped on it, like with his shoes and all. And then he still had after that he took my phone in his hands again, and he came out of the car, and he went to talk to my mom. He was trying to scream at my mom, telling her that it's all over, and my mom is screaming at me for like not being responsible and just not caring about my family and shit. And I'm in the middle of it all, still trying to digest what was going on, because there was just too much happening. And my mom got my phone from him, and after that he got back into his car and he left. So then I got home, and my mom, I don't know why, but for the first time ever, my mom hit me. She slapped me on my face. That was like the first time ever. My mom has never hit me before that. I don't know what escalated that day so much, but she hit me on my face too. And my dad was also so angry at me, and he was screaming at me. All of this because I didn't answer their phones, and they were worried about where I was, and I had come home late. So they were angry at me for all of these reasons. And I didn't do anything. Like, I couldn't talk to my mom. It was like at that time it felt like everybody was gonna harm me, and I was the only protection I had. And I could, all that I had to protect myself was my own hands and legs, and like I was against the wall, and that was like I tried to make myself as small as possible, and I was scared of my parents, and I've never been scared of my parents, like not in this sense. So the thing is, women who end up putting up with physical abuse or domestic violence, what I think it is largely because they're scared that if they talk out about it and things end up with them, they're gonna get blamed for it. They'll be like, you did this, so you deserve this. And that's basically what the whole thing boils down to. People think women just deserve what they get, but why should it be like that? It's like everybody is just against women and against me, and it's like everything is closing in on me, the walls are closing in on me, and I'm just struggling to get out of this whole box that I'm suffocating inside, and I'm trying to get out of it, and it's just too much to handle, and it just suffocates me. And I'm trying, and I'm like choking, and I'm trying to get free, but it still catches up with me and like manages to suffocate me and choke me. That's basically women and Indian society in a nutshell.